From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One ball, Corner Pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Live edition, y'all. It's a live edition of Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, as well as our good friends over at Vitamin Energy. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Hit the thumbs up. Watching us live here, even on the replay, hit the thumbs up. Still accomplishes the same task. 5-star rating and review if you're listening to us on the podcast version of this. Memorial Day weekend, but plenty on the bone left to talk about. Busy happenings, busy comings and goings for Florida State. Corey Clark, how are you, man?
I'm good, buddy. Hey, thanks for asking. I appreciate that, Aslan. Thanks for asking. I'm enjoying this Wednesday evening, Thursday morning if you're listening to the podcast.
You look great, man. I really hope people take advantage of the fact that we do this live in living color and watch the video. You should download the podcast. The sound quality fidelity is much better. But when we do a live show, you probably should just go over to YouTube and watch it, especially like, whoa, all right, Corey, all right, chill out.
What's going on? Why are you doing that?
I don't know. It's got the traps popping out right now.
Oh, buddy, you can't. Well, it's all this vitamin energy.
All right.
It's all this vitamin energy I've been drinking, man. It makes this used to fit. This shirt used to be too big, Aslan. And now I'm just filling it out.
A lot of Bruce Willis vibes. I know that was your doppelganger for many a year. Really works out now. Very, very John McClane.
Thank you, buddy. And by the way, nothing to do with Bruce Willis, but R.I.P. to Tina Turner, one of the great American legends. That was a bummer. I mean, we all die, and she had a great life, but man, that's a bummer. She was a big time superstar.
Yeah, somebody mentioned that softball. I was like, what? And someone already heard about it. Like, yeah, I already heard about it. I was like, well, I don't care.
You mean at the softball press conference?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's up on our YouTube page. To check it out. Lonnie Alameda, Devin Flaherty, Janai Kerr. We spoke to all three. They seem very dialed in, Corey. They don't seem too concerned about the fact that they kind of eked past South Carolina en route to making it to the Sweet 16, if you will, the Super Regional, taking on Georgia. Meanwhile, Georgia they're just happy to be here, sounds like. So there's a narrative here, I think, Corey. I was trying to create a narrative like David versus Goliath or something, but Georgia sounds moderately confident. But, I mean, Florida State's that's a tough program to go up against. So I think all the pressure's on Florida State heading into Thursday.
Probably, and then also, man, Georgia plays in the SEC, so they've seen it all. You're not a David if you play in the SEC and are in the Super Regionals. So it's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy. They hit a bunch of home runs. Third in the country. Behind, by the way, Oklahoma, I looked it up, leads the country in home runs, which is not a surprise. Batting average, which is not a surprise. Doubles, which is not a surprise. But, oh, yeah, for good measure, fielding percentage. So good luck, everyone. It might be a reason they've won 50 games in a row.
I'm going to pull that up right now. Actually, I think I have hopefully I've got like 3 NCAA stat tabs here. So let's hope that I pull up the right one. My goodness. There it is. Batting average first, earned run average first, fielding first, doubles first, home runs first, scoring first, slugging first, win-loss percentage first.
Yeah. Yep. But they're only tied for 66th in double plays per game. So that's where you take advantage of them. You put the ball on the ground, they're not going to be able to turn it.
Expose them. You all might be guilty of the same stuff that I'm guilty of on occasion, and that's reading headlines and not diving into stories. Whenever you see a byline of Irish O'Fell, Corey Clark as well, I highly suggest that you actually dive and read the full story because there's always good stuff in there. It's over on warchant.com right now, Corey. This was something that was talked about at ACC spring meetings, and that was a weighted revenue sharing program, a merit-based program, if you will, to where more successful teams would get more revenue, would get a bigger piece of the pie, if you will. Now that's happened here. There will be a success-based weighted revenue sharing. But it's so important that we had to add it to the headline, but read the whole story. But the TV terms remain the same. So give us in layman terms what this all means, Corey.
Well, it means that if Florida State gets to the playoff, now this starts not this year, and maybe next year. I guess 2024, 2025 is when it starts. So it will start next year, not this year. So, just after Jordan Travis leaves, they'll start this merit-based payout. But if you get to the football playoff, you get a bigger, instead of splitting it evenly among all the other conference members, you get to keep more of the money because you earned it, and you get to keep more of the money that you earn in the NCAA tournament if you keep advancing. We all think that that's a dumb way to do this. This isn't even lipstick on a pig. It's not a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. It's just nothing. It's flicking a gnat. It accomplishes nothing in the grand scheme of what you want accomplished. Yes, if Florida State makes the playoff 3 years in a row, sure, it's an extra, I don't know, $5-8 million each of those years. That's great. That's still a drop in the bucket compared to what the schools that you're competing against, and I mean regionally and nationally, you're competing against. And not only that, it's not fair. It's not fair. As I tweeted to David Hale when he said how ironic it would be if Wake and Pitt were the ones that grabbed this cash. It's like, yeah, it would be truly ironic because they mean next to nothing when it comes to TV value. And that's where all the money comes from, is TV revenue. And Wake and Pitt can bathe themselves in money that they earned on the field, but nobody cares because nobody watches Wake Forest and Pittsburgh football.
I was talking to Ira about this after the softball interviews. Is this like you're going through a divorce, but you have to go through counseling first before they'll let it happen, kind of a thing? These are the steps of separation. Or like Florida State asked for this and they've got it. That doesn't necessarily mean that Florida State is now happy with it. It just kind of felt like they had to go through this motion, maybe to put things in motion, to see what bigger things lie or actually,
I don't even know why Alford would ask for this. Like this would placate anyone. It doesn't. What Florida State brings to the conference, I know this sounds dumb to say, but it's more than wins and losses. It's eyeballs, which is all that matters. And I looked this up, Aslan, because I just got so fed up with some of the stuff I was seeing on Twitter. Basically like, well, from Hale and, other people saying, well, Florida State whined enough. Let's see if they can go win some money for themselves. And it's like, that's not the point of any of this. From the first deal, the first deal before they extended the grant of rights was May of 2012. I'm sorry. That's when they extended. That's when they had the grant of rights going to 2027. And from 2012, let me look it up. From 2012 to 2016, I mean, I should know. I just want to get the numbers exactly right. So 2012 is when the first grant of rights was established with the ACC, trying to quell all the rumors about moving to the Big 12 and everything else. So between 2012 and then when the new agreement was agreed to in 2016, which included the birth of the ACC network, ACC, that was an interesting way to pronounce that, Florida State went 49-6. In the window that mattered, that brought everyone the ACC network, Florida State went 49-6. If Florida State had had the 4 years that they just had, from 2012 to 2016, there's probably not a network. But Florida State was awesome. They won championships. They had huge ratings, and that made it a feasible expense for ESPN to say we want an ACC network. So it just perturbs me now that because Florida State hit a severe downturn, nobody appreciates what Florida State did for this conference to get them this kind of money. It's still not nearly enough, but Florida State got them this kind of money. And it still wasn't competitive with the SEC. So what should Florida State have done from 17 to 23 to make it feasible, to hold up their end of the bargain, so to speak? Go 70-0? Like, Florida State was the best program in the country for that 4-year span. It got them this deal. So don't act like if they had been better for the last 5 years that anything would have changed. The contract was agreed to when Florida State was the best program in the country. And Clemson was like top 5. And obviously Clemson's been great since, and they've really kind of carried the flag of the ACC, but that hasn't mattered because they haven't done any more grant of rights extensions. They haven't done any more live look-ins on the TV contract. So anyway, I was just a little perturbed this afternoon when that happened. And look, what matters in college football is eyeballs and TV ads and TV revenue. And Florida State brings that. Wake Forest doesn't. Wake Forest could go 13-0. They're not bringing any TV revenue. Florida State LSU will get more ratings than Wake Forest against anyone. Wake Forest for 3 games in a row. Florida State's rating against LSU will draw more eyeballs than Wake Forest's first 3 games of the season combined. Feels like that's what should matter when it comes to distributing. Golly, what's up with me today, Aslan? I know I've been on a rant. But good grief, I can't even talk. I feel like the ratings and the TV revenue should matter more than, oh, you made it to the playoff. Good for you.
And I know David Hale works for ESPN. He doesn't work for the ACC network. He's not a publicist for the conference. But and again, I kind of hate to say this. I haven't read anything that you're referring to him on Twitter. But when you talk about kind of the snickering that goes on with people in the media looking at Florida State fans and Florida State administrators and saying hey, this is what you want now. Congratulations. I'll go do something more with it. Like, isn't the story here that this conference with some really good teams in it and some really important media markets just continues to be completely undervalued and is going to be swallowed whole almost at some point here? And not even swallowed whole, but left stranded without a really a fair market value deal while the SEC and the Big Ten just start soaring away. I mean, isn't the story really here? It doesn't have to be Florida State centric, but like this conference needs to figure out a way to make up this huge revenue gap that's in terms of television dollars. The commissioner said itself, but it becomes like this, like Florida State is throwing a fit. Like, look at them. They're not going to ever get what they want.
Well, and it bothers me because the ACC would be the AAC if it wasn't for Florida State and Clemson in terms of TV revenue, even right now, in terms of relevance. It just would be. And I'm not trying to, the AAC has some good teams every now and again. Louisville, NC State, sure. But Florida State and Clemson are national powers in the sport that matters. And I just feel like that's not maybe appreciated enough, what Florida State has done for this conference, and maybe more to the point, why Florida State would want out of this conference. They're not being whiny babies. They're trying to compete nationally in a sport that the state of North Carolina has never cared about. So that's why that bothers me. And yeah, clearly success on the field didn't make for a better it didn't make for a better deal with the ACC because Florida State was the best team in the country when they signed this last deal. Fat load of good that did them. They've been passed again. So Florida State wants to catch back up. And I don't think that makes them whiny. I think that makes them a football school. And there aren't many in the ACC, unfortunately.
No real easy way to just say bang and let's go. Let's get some news. Let's go. Man, our guy Ray Pereira, give him some sauce, Aslan. He's trying to find the soundboard. He's struggling. What? Ray Pereira, everybody. His name's on this pillar right here for a reason. Now you know probably. Was that $399.99?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and round up, Ray.
All right.
4 bills, Ray. I appreciate that, my man. Thank you very, very, very much.
Ray, you wild man. Wild man. Let's get this party started. Gotta love our softball team. Correct. What's your best guess on preseason poll rankings? I know top 10, but could we be top 5? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think he's pivoted to football at this point, right? He was just throwing out a shout out to the softball team, but then he pivoted to football.
Yeah. Georgia's probably still going to be number 1.
I think Michigan will be 2 because they returned a lot from a team that's gone to the playoff back-to-back years. And they were better than Florida State last year. So I think ESPN has them at 3 or the post-spring rankings, and that was before Keon Coleman. I think that top 5 is likely, honestly. I think they're going to be like a trendy pick just so people can, I don't know if the media does this, but the first time Florida State loses, see, they were ranked too high. We fell for it. I think they're going to be a trendy pick. I think people get tired of ranking Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State, bang, bang, bang. So I think Florida State and USC could both sneak into the top 5. USC would probably, because of the history of their head coach and that they're always really good and that quarterback is ridiculous. I think that USC I would rank USC higher to start the season, but I think it could be 4-5 or 3-4. I definitely think Florida State has a very good shot of being preseason top 5.
Yeah, I can't think of any teams off the rip that I can't think of 5 I'd put ahead of them. Like I could see putting Southern Cal in front of them. Do you put Ohio State just because, consistency or whatever? Like I don't
think you could, and that's usually what happens, but they're breaking in a new quarterback just like Alabama, just like Georgia. I think Georgia will just be preseason number 1 because of what they've done the last 2 years. I don't know if it's merit based in the sense that we all know Georgia has loads of talent, but how much of it is experienced? Florida State is the most experienced team in the country.
Mhm.
So, and they got good dudes. They're not just experienced; they're experienced and good. It's a good combination.
I feel like that, this is going to be like a real test for Kirby. I mean, because Kirby right now deserves, I guess, all the benefit of the doubt, back-to-back national
They had
championship.
another reckless driving arrest, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. It's their BB gun. Well, I shouldn't say that because I shouldn't diminish it, because they had actually people that died because of reckless driving on that team. And then they just got another one. So I'm not trying to make light of it. They need to figure that out, because that's getting a little bit out of control.
I mean, he replaced one coordinator, and when Dan Lanning left to Oregon, defense kept doing what it does because he's got really good players. But like the Mike Bobo hire,
Yeah.
that's probably the only time you could ever bring Mike Bobo back to Georgia would be after winning back-to-back national titles, and like not have a whole bunch of uproar over it. But this is going to be really interesting to see how it works out, because that feels very like Jimbo 17. Like, I don't know, give me Bill Miller. Just give me somebody that but at least you are good friends with Mike Bobo. I don't think Jimbo's good friends with.
Yeah, they played together. I don't know if they grew up together. They grew up around each other. Like Bainbridge and Thomasville aren't far off, but I know they played together at Georgia. So that's a buddy of the last. They've been friends for 30 years. So I think I had more. I don't know that Jimbo even knew who Bill Miller was.
Yeah.
That was such a bizarre hire.
I just want one more time. Just
Ray, come on, buddy. Come on, buddy.
Ray.
Can't wait to buy you a beer.
Yeah.
Wherever. Hopefully he'll be in Orlando or at the national championship game next year.
Our guy T. Giddings. T. Giddy in the house.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Thank you, T. Giddy. No hockey jersey for me or Corey. Next time, Corey, you're in town, you gotta let me know.
I gotta get it. I know. I can't wait to wear that thing.
He just simply says, "Let's go."
Is it cool if I cut off the sleeves?
Yeah, roll them up a little bit.
I want to cut it off and just show off everything. So, but you probably can't do that with a hockey jersey, right?
Yeah,
that's frowned upon.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Thomas. I won't do it.
Dude, this one's got like the fight strap, and it's got like padded elbow. I mean, it's a legit game.
I know. I saw it. It looked awesome.
Impressive. He says that we make the offseason go by easy with all this content. I mean, shoot, it's almost June. Can you believe it, Corey?
No lie. So in 2 months, we'll be starting preseason practice.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man. We made it. Yeah. We made it. There's been a lot to talk about. With the transfer portal really does kind of make it a year-round job now, which is pretty darn cool. So even just for instance, this is a complete hypothetical. Even if the college you cover's baseball team hasn't had a great season and isn't going to play in the postseason, you still got stuff to talk about.
Yes. We need to give it some kind of cool name. Baseball's got hot stove. I mean, we got to give it some kind of cool, quirky name. The portal season.
When is the portal? But the main portal season is still in December, right?
Yeah, but it's summer portals. I don't. Who knows?
We'll figure it out. Hey, we'll spitball it. We'll come up with something.
Let's see what we got here.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you very much, man. That's very, very kind. Thank you.
Marlon, I get our offense will be great, but have we forgotten that our defense was a bit sus? That's short for suspect. Have we forgotten that the defense was a little suspect last year, and most of us wanted to fire the defensive coordinator? No, I don't think no one's mind has changed on that, right, Corey? I think the ones that think that, Adam Fuller did about as good as you could do with that talent in this year of football. We still feel pretty confident that he'll do good enough. And then everyone that thinks it wasn't good enough still is like pointing at their watch and saying, "Hey man, you're on the clock. Figure this thing out now."
Yeah, look, it's all contextual, right? It's all relative, because coming where it came from, the defense was not suspect at all. The defense was very good. And when you look at the national rankings, they were pretty darn good in everything that matters. The one thing that they weren't good at for almost the entire season is something that I think has been shored up tremendously, and that's run defense. Because you got a healthy Fabian Lovett. You've got Darrell Jackson, and you've got Braden Fisk, and you've got Josh Farmer coming on. Like, you've got a defensive line that's much better than what you had last year. And I know if Cooper's healthy and Lovett's healthy, that's a strong defensive line, but they were not. Clearly, Lovett only played 4 or 5 games. So if you get those guys to stay relatively healthy, that run defense was the thing that I thought was the worst last year, and they'll be much better there. So, and also, if you did a poll of like 100 college football fans from 30 different programs, or 50, let's say 50 programs, and you polled like hardcore fans, how many are in love with their defensive coordinator? How many are like okay with them? Not many.
It's the O-line coach kind of example that you guys would use on headlines back in the day, right? Like, who likes their offensive line coach except for Alabama? I mean,
Right.
We complain about Rick Trickett or whatever. So somebody brought this up in the comments, and I'm sorry I don't have it in the YouTube comments to our show from the other day. So shout out to them. But they mentioned, for as prolific as the 19 LSU team was, they did have that one game against Auburn where it was a 23-20 final. And that LSU team did not have a good defense. They had Dave Aranda as their defensive coordinator, but that was not a good defense. I mean, 38 points twice. They allowed 28 against Florida, 37 against Ole Miss. You can see the numbers on your screen there. It was not like a great defense. But, I mean, when you're scoring 60, you can allow 30. There's the potential probably for at least one game, precedent-wise, if you're looking at 2019 LSU's offense and think what Florida State could be on their very best day for 13 straight weeks, you'll still have that one game where your defense will need to come out and play really well. And that's what's going to hinge everything, all the public opinion on Adam Fuller, like once and for all, it feels like.
I think there really wasn't a game like that last year where you thought the defense kind of saved them. It could have maybe been the NC State game if the offense had done anything in the second half, but then NC State lost their starting quarterback. But Clemson, you needed a really good defensive performance and you didn't get it. Wake Forest, defense wasn't terrible, and I certainly wouldn't say the defense is the reason they lost the game because they only scored 20 points against an average at best Wake Forest defense. But, man, wouldn't it have been cool if that game you give up 18 or 17? Like, all the games they won, I'm trying to think. Can you think of one where, like, the defense was the reason? Like, the defense saved the offense. There were a couple, Florida, Oklahoma, Louisville, where I thought the offense kind of saved the defense. But I don't really think.
I think Louisville's probably the most apt out of those three.
I don't know. That's why I was saying I think the offense saved the defense in that one. I thought the defense was pretty bad all night in that one against an average Louisville offense. Cunningham ran for 150 yards. They couldn't stop the run again because Fabian Lovett was out. Jared Verse had gotten hurt in that game. But they made, Noles made the – was it Noles that made the pick at the end? Yeah, it was a big-time play. LSU maybe holding them to 23 points, although that wasn't a great LSU offense, certainly not in August of last year. So you're right. That would be cool if that would happen. I think Fuller, I get the angst. I think some of it has to do with his resume before he got here. That's probably most of it, actually, because if you just look, if this was, say, Billy Bob Smith, some guy that had coached Alabama for 10 years and came in with this huge resume and did the turnaround that Adam Fuller did from 2021 to 2022, or more impressively from 2020 to 2022, people would be calling him the next Mickey Andrews or Jeremy Pruitt. It's just that Adam Fuller had really not accomplished a whole lot at this level, coordinating defenses. So I think the jury's still out on him, and with good reason. But yeah, I think the Oklahoma and the Florida games are still in everybody's heads, and those were not good defensive performances at all.
Do you want to take a crazy question?
I always love crazy questions. It's not insulting, is it? Oh, okay.
No, it's not insulting. It's almost like I don't know if somebody posted on the Renegade Express or someone shared, I think, in a group chat with you, I, and Ira maybe. But Garrett says, let's get nuts. What if the ACC came together and said, we're not going to play a single down of football in 2024 unless this contract gets renegotiated? What would be the repercussions legally if that happened?
I mean, I'm not smart enough to know that. I like that he says 2024 because he wants to see 2023. Garrett, I got you, man. Let's enjoy this season. And then if you're breaking in a new quarterback and you lose half your team to the draft, that's the year you find you find your backbone. Like, we're not doing this anymore. Look, I would think that the contract would still be the contract. I would think ESPN would still pay what they owe the ACC, and I would assume they just wouldn't pay Florida State their cut.
Yeah. Well, they say what the ACC came together and everybody said it. It's like,
I'm sorry. Yes. Okay. Well, yeah. The ESPN
revenue gap doesn't matter when you're not playing games.
But also, like, ESPN wants content. they got to fill up the schedule. They have a whole network, and they have all these games and announcers and everything else. They paid a lot of money for this, so yeah, I guess go to the picket line. Just stand out. Go to Greensboro. Norvell's there. Dabo, the whole gang, and just say we want more pay and hold up signs. We're not playing until you renegotiate in good faith.
I need to branch out and read some more, opinion from around the conference, because I wonder, like we keep talking about the teams that are football centric or have their eyes on the prize, whether it's like Virginia Tech or North Carolina, maybe NC State. Granted, these are not football powers, but they realize just how important football is to keeping everything afloat. Like, do we really think Wake Forest is okay with getting $30 million less, than South Carolina?
Yes.
Than Arkansas? Like, really?
I do, because in the history of that school, they've never spent the money to try to be a nationally competitive program. Now, they've had good years and they've had good coaches and good teams, but they know kind of what their role is and they're fine with it. Like, maybe
if they had more, they could build better, arenas. They could do better in the Olympic sports. I mean, like Stanford's out there competing and everything. Like Wake Forest.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, yeah.
I'm not saying just on a football only thing. It's just I get what you're saying. Though. Like you realize your station in life. Like we're never going to be able to win it all. This is still good money. Everybody's getting paid. All of our coaches are happy. We're graduating kids, and our alumni are happy. So I guess we're not worried about it.
But yeah, for those schools, the other sports should matter more. The Wakes and the Syracuses and every Boston College, I guess, if they need to go get a good hockey coach, pay top dollar for that. At Florida State, we had this talk on headlines, the conversation about headlines, because Ira was bringing up that, it's going to be hard to keep Lonnie in 2027 if an SEC school just offers her $2 million a year, which they will have the money then to do that because they will be making $30 million a year more than you. Florida can come and get Lonnie. But my point was, yes, it sucks for the smaller sports. You're going to start seeing the real dramatic effects there, but also football. What's to keep Norvell from going to Florida if they double his salary? I'm just saying they'll have that kind of money, and I wonder what it will take to get the Wake Forests of the world or the North Carolina states of the world to understand how inequitable, whatever that word is, and care. And I'm talking about the big sport. I'm talking about football, but they might not ever, because look, man, they've never been good at football. They've never been a national championship quality program, any of them, except Miami and Clemson and Virginia Tech for a 2-year window. None of the other schools in the conference, since college football has mattered, have been championship caliber programs. So it's just life for them. It's how it's always been.
I don't want to call one of our great benefactors a liar, but do we really believe that Ray Prayer is at corner pocket right now?
No chance. Come on, Ray. If you're there, tweet a picture. I would hope you are, man. You can enjoy those wings. There's nothing really on TV right now at 6:30. Maybe an ACC baseball tournament game that Florida State's not in. But yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, why wouldn't you be there? That's the place to be. Aslan, I'm in Atlanta, Ray. Otherwise, legitimately, I would be leaving as soon as I shut my laptop down to go over there and meet you.
Yeah, Ray, if you're there, bark twice. I shall come over. We are brought to you by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee, Florida. CPTallybar.com is a website. They got daily lunch specials, but their lunch specials, Ray, they're over now. 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. for only $8.99 on Thursday. As you're listening to this on your Thursday podcast, you get the cheesesteak sandwich, steak or chicken. And since we are live, we are brought to you and powered by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Promo code is Warchant BOGO, BOGO. Put an item in your cart, put that promo code on your screen, and then you get an item of equal or lesser value for absolutely free. Again, we're kicking with the Mood Plus around with the Mood Plus. We got a little Immune Plus as well. I don't know if it's like the you never forget your first, but this one, the Immune Plus, is the first one I ever took, Corey, and the Tango Orange is undefeated. It is the best flavor. I like the sour apple on the Workout Plus, the pre-workout one, but the Tango Orange to me just hits the palate and just makes.
I don't think I've had that one. Yeah. But you're recommending it. All right.
I'm recommending it. I'm recommending it. And recommending you folks go to vitaminenergy.com. It's right above my head. Promo code Warchant BOGO.
Which one is that? Which one is the Tango Orange?
It's Immune Plus.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I haven't taken that one yet. Okay, got it. I'm on it. I'm on it.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's see what else we got here on our YouTube show. If you get a thumbs up as well, that'd be really cool. We'd appreciate that. Just pings it all over the place, and we get everybody involved in the show. Let's see here. We went to our guy T Giddy, right? Let's see here. Not a lot going right on the chat, so let's pivot maybe a little bit to softball then, Corey. 7:00 Super Regional. I'll be in attendance, and then Friday at 8.
Prime time on ESPN.
Yeah. Ask Lonnie, or actually, I think Ira did. We mentioned on the podcast Monday. They kept getting asked about Mississippi State last year and what that meant and how it affected them going into this season. Obviously, being I think they were the number 2 overall seed last year. Cruise through the first 2 days, and then on Sunday they lose game 1 and they lose game 2 to Mississippi State. I think they got shut out in the first game, hung maybe 3 runs in the second game, but it wasn't enough. And you mentioned that they still won. I mean, they eked it out, but that probably wasn't the best response coming out of it. The players seemed to not really be too hard on themselves. I mean, they said that the goal was just to at least just get 1 run across the board. If that's all it was going to take, they were going to do whatever it took to win the game. So I guess that's kind of the right mindset to have. But Lonnie did say that she, now that she doesn't have to worry about 14 innings, she's going to be focusing 7 innings at a time. Yeah. Maybe they're going to have to start Kat Sandercock, I would imagine, on Thursday, right? There's no reason to save her for game 2, or is there?
No, I think what you would do is, and again, man, I'm not Mr. Softball. I know people have called me that for a long time, Asla, and you did when you first met me. You started calling me Mr. Softball. I think it's because my head looks like one. But I would think you start her game 1 and game 3. If there's a game 3, that would make the most sense to get the most use of Kat Sandercock. Or if she has a good game 1 and you have a 3-1 lead in the 5th inning of game 2, you bring her in to close her out. They've done that many times this season. So I would think that's what you do. You certainly don't hold her. I would not hold her for game 2. I think that first win is always so important. So I would go ahead and try to get that one out of the way with my best pitcher.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Eric Angel, y'all. I think Eric Angel's somewhere on there. He's all the way down here on this old piece of granite. $20 in a jar. Thank you, Eric Angel. He says, let's go Lady Noles softball team. Beat Georgia 97 days till Orlando beat LSU again. He's going 52-26.
Oh, okay. All right. I'd be surprised if the Noles got to 50. I think if you get to 30, you're going to win the game.
If they won 52-26, would they be ranked number 1 in the country the next week?
No.
I say yes. No? Would it be enough to jump anybody?
I mean, unless Georgia lost to whoever. I think Georgia might have a tough. I think it's a really good weekend that weekend, the opening weekend of college football. I know there's more games than just FSU, LSU, but I would still. I mean, there would be an excuse like, oh, it's a down LSU team. LSU must not be as good as we thought if they're losing to an ACC team.
Wow. South Carolina at North Carolina on Saturday.
Okay. Come on, Tar Heels. Come on, Drake May. Show them what's up.
Man, there's so much football on. Colorado at TCU.
Yeah, that's a good one.
There's a big test out the gates. I don't know. Ohio State at Indiana. Ooh, Big Ten stakes up for grabs that early.
That early, yeah. How about that?
That's incredible. Georgia. Yeah, they got Tennessee Martin. They're hosting.
Oh, you see, I told you, a big game. Tennessee Martin, man. Don't sleep on those guys. I don't know what they are.
They're the Skyhawks.
Everybody knows that. I know. I was just kidding. I was acting like I didn't know that UT Martin was the Skyhawks.
Florida at Utah Thursday.
That's right. I knew there was another big one, but they moved that to Thursday. It was going to be Saturday, I think, and they moved it.
Yeah. So can't wait, y'all. Cannot wait.
It's almost here, man. Eric Angel's right. 97 days, 3 months, and about 67 days until they start practicing, and we can tell y'all all about it. How good Destin Hill really is.
That's right. Scott Beckett, was tampering discussed at ACC spring meetings? I'm wondering, out of all the schools in the country, how a coach out west got 3 of our players. No accusations, just asking.
It was more than 3, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's 5 or so maybe now.
That Colorado got? Yeah. They got Travis J, Amarian Cooper. Yeah.
Bishop Thomas.
Brendan
Gant. Derek McClendon.
Yeah. Yeah. And Travis Hunter, if you want to count him.
Always.
Always. He's always a Nole at heart.
Always.
I don't know that. Look, it's a hard issue to discuss because we don't know how Florida State does it. I'm not saying Florida State does anything untoward, but Florida State has done better than just about anybody in the portal. You could say Colorado did better this year, but that's because Colorado got 60 guys.
Yeah.
So they threw a lot of stuff on the wall, and they're going to see what sticks. Florida State was very much more precision oriented and went after a few guys and got almost all of them. But I don't know how they start those. I don't know how those lines of communication are open. I think, Derek McClendon, David Kelly, who was a coach at Florida State, is the recruiting coordinator at Colorado, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he had a relationship, I believe, with Derek McClendon and Brendan Gann. I think they're both old enough that David Kelly might have recruited them. James Chaney's out there too, and he's one of their and Travis Jay as well was recruited by David Kelly. And then James Chaney was maybe Duke Cooper's coach. James Chaney was a former Florida State defensive lineman who's now out in Colorado, and he was Duke Cooper's high school coach. So there were some real connections other than Dion just wanting to screw Florida State. That might be a part of it, though, because he wanted this job and he didn't get it. So, but you look at those names, right?
Yeah, how is that screwing FSU?
It's not.
You guys are acting like he stole freaking Kelvin Benjamin and
And also, Derek McClendon clearly went into the portal not having a landing spot because that took a long time to develop. He left the first or second week, I thought, of spring. Yeah. And it took a month for him to find a home. So it was not instantaneous with him. He was a legitimate free agent. He didn't know where he was going. There was talk about South Carolina. He ended up at Colorado. So maybe Cooper and Travis Jay and Bishop Thomas because they were so quick. But again, you're talking about, I'm not trying to pile on the kids, but 3 kids that, hadn't really – you weren't all that excited about going into 2023. They might have made jumps. Travis Jay might have played a lot. Cooper too, I guess, in his new position. And it makes sense if Cooper wants to be a cornerback, right?
Yes.
To go back to Colorado, go back to his natural position, and, play for the best one that's ever done it.
Yeah, I think Duke Cooper stings. I think the rest of them you can kind of live with. And the crazy thing is they passed that rule a while back. I mean, it's not the Devin Bush rule, but they had a rule to where if you're a high school coach, if you hire a high school coach, you cannot take any players from that guy's program for a year. There's a window there where you cannot take anybody that they had a previous relationship with at an institution and bring them with you. Because that's what coaches started doing in the South. Right. It was Ole Miss would hire these guys that, were assistants at good programs, bringing them in so they'd bring the players with them. And I don't know how that window works with James Chaney because, again, he was Duke Cooper's high school coach, and then you bring him to Colorado. I mean, it's one thing if he was going to, I don't know, Southern Miss or Mississippi State. To go to Colorado, it's a
little odd that you got 5 from one school, and it happens to be the alma mater of the head coach. I get it. I get that how it looks. And I think I would say that I think McClendon is the one that hurts the most, but McClendon was already gone. He was going to be somewhere else. But I think out of that 5, that quintet, the guy that would have played the most and started probably is Derek McClendon. That's the one that you'd like to have because you're still a little short on defensive end depth. So these grad students start flooding in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see what they get at safety. Duke Cooper didn't wow anybody at safety, but if somebody went down at cornerback, he would have been able to probably go and play some reps there. So, we'll see what they get out of the portal and how that stacks up to what Duke Cooper might have been. That's the one that might, I'm not even bothered by, but that's the one that might have a little, maybe pass the smell test. But again, man, if he starts picking off, if you picked off Jared Verse like that, I'd be upset with all of you. But right now, I can't do it. Just can't do it. Matthew Ogles, Aslan, Corey. How does 23 Florida State stack up to 12, 14, or the 16 teams? I believe this offense will be great. I agree with Corey about the defensive line and the run defense improving. That would be.
Well, it's not as talented as the 12 or 14 teams. The 2012 team probably, I shouldn't say should have, but definitely could have won a national championship. That was a lot. I mean, you saw the next year they did. And it had Bjorn Werner on that team and Xavier Rhodes on that team. Had some dudes on that team. Vince Williams, who played in the league forever. The guys that didn't play in 13 but were on that 12 team. And then 14 obviously was most of the guys that were left over from the championship team. So I would say it's not as good as those two. Certainly not as talented. We'll see if it reaches its potential more than those two did, because I don't think they did. And that's hard to say for a 12 team that went, 12-2. But I think there were too many times on Saturdays where that team didn't play up to its potential. And then obviously the 14 team, it went undefeated, but man, those were all root canal games. I would say it's better than the 16 team. On paper right now in late May, give me the 16 team for sure, even though I'm sorry, give me the 2023 team, even though the 16 team.
Better quarterback, probably better defensive end. I think Jared Verse is going to go first round if he stays healthy at DeMarcus Walker.
Yeah, but man, DeMarcus Walker was awesome.
He was great.
No Dalvin, no DeMarcus, and no Derwin. But the 16 team didn't have Derwin either. He was hurt all year. So yeah, give me the 2023 team. That fair, Aslan? You agree with that?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I co-sign on it. Some people didn't like the fact that they're being compared. Listen, we didn't compare it. It was a mailbag question. Somebody compared in the 2013 team. We talked about it. And the whole premise of the question, Corey, was like no one really knew how good 13 was going to be until it happened. So like, why not? Now the fact that we know we have a pretty good idea of what this team is going to probably look like why not fully embrace that? And again, man, I think being at practice obviously helps, Corey. But if we had a podcast, you and I, and we were able to watch practice, I wonder if we would have talked about 13, or not even you and I, but if Seminole headlines, because that was actually around in 2013. If you guys were at practice watching it all the time, would you have been talking about that team kind of with the really lofty expectations that we were doing right now on this show seemingly every day?
There was so much. Probably if we saw how good Jameis was in practice, because that was the great unknown. We just didn't know. We knew they were really talented, but we just didn't know. Nobody knew that Jameis was going to be that. Even if he was an upgrade from EJ, you would think maybe he'd struggle a little bit to start his career. He was a redshirt freshman that never played it down. But I do remember specifically because Jimbo would always open up one practice in the preseason. And it so happened this particular practice was moved to the IPF because of lightning, if you can believe it. So they had to go to the IPF. So it was and it was open to fans too. So it was really crowded and really hot in there. But I remember one specific play where it's like the first team offense going up against the second team defense, and Christian Jones is on one side, Mario Edwards is on the other, Telvin Smith and LaMarcus Joyner come on blitzes. And I remember telling Ira, yeah, man, this defense might be a problem. And not in the Maryland context of it might be a problem, as in this defense is loaded. It looks like it's going to be awesome. But then you never knew that it would be. You never know it would be this. And I didn't know that Jalen Ramsey would be as good as he was. I know he's a 5-star freshman, but Florida State has had a million of those that didn't quite pan out. So yeah. But yes, I think if we'd have been able to watch practice and saw how good Jameis was, we would have had higher expectations than, hey, maybe they can beat Clemson. Maybe they can get back to the Orange Bowl. It would have been, man, if he plays like this, they should win the national championship because he had so much talent around him.
And crazy enough as it is, that team finished 12-2 in 2012, but I don't think people felt nearly as good about the offseason as people do about this team that finished 10-3. Because,
yes, that's true. Because you were having to break in a new quarterback. And again, at Florida State, it's one thing to say you got a 5-star freshman, you got a 5-star quarterback. Well, EJ had been a 5-star quarterback. So, and Florida State's had plenty of them. Xavier Lee was a 5-star quarterback, man. You've had a lot of them that didn't quite pan out. But you got the indication in spring pretty early on, not just the spring game, but before that Jameis was doing things that hadn't been done there. But still, you didn't know it until you could see it under the lights. In Pittsburgh, in front of all those wily, what in the world?
What is going on, Corey? What is going on? This is crazy. What? The dentist doing some damage. Z-Chan, brother. $399.99, Corey. You want to round it up?
That's 400 bones, man. That's 400 bones. And hey, for that, Aslan can interrupt me anytime. Anytime with the big red $400 donation, man. Thank you very much. Or tip, whatever we call it. I can't ever remember.
Tips. Yeah, tips.
Tip,
yeah.
sorry.
We're not a charity. I just realized that too. I guess maybe that's crazy, right? I guess it makes sense with AI taking over the world. Like it even senses the amount of money that's being thrown at us because it's different colors. Like whenever it's the pillars, it's usually red because it's a large sum of money. You crazy wild men. Hope your wives don't see this. He says to keep this and have it go toward the amazing get-together that we'll have in Orlando, right, guys? Which, Corey, by the way, somebody asked on the recruiting chat like last week about, hey, you guys gonna be doing something for Orlando? And I'm like, oh, for sure. Well, I'm sure we'll have something. We'll let you know about it. If I had to guess, it'd probably be at the Harry Buffalo again, where we hung out before the bowl game. And everyone's like, yeah, Aslan, that place is closed. I'm like, no, it's not. It is. What happened?
Closed. The place across the street that's like this weird opera saloon place, that's still open, I think. Okay. So maybe we can use that, or maybe we'll just go to Topgolf or meet at a Dave & Buster's or something. Who knows? But we will. Hey, Z-Chan, you can just come hang out in my room for the night. We'll watch Georgia and UT Martin together, my man. Come on. Whatever you want, buddy. You and Ray Pereira. The night is ours.
Yeah. Our guy Ralph out there in Hawaii watching us. Aloha, Ralph. Hope you're well, man. Saying, where's the meet and greet? We don't have that. It's on the agenda. It's on the to-do list for us, but we don't have that quite figured out yet at this moment. But there will be something we can say with almost 100% certainty. No, Corey?
I would say 90% certainty.
I'm going 99, y'all.
Okay, all right. But hey, Z-Chan, thank you very much. Thank you very, very, very much.
Yeah. Let's see here. There's a question. Yeah, Kevin Milne. I live in Wisconsin. I would love to attend Florida State football games in the Midwest, but I cannot see Florida State fans traveling to Indiana, Purdue, Minnesota, Rutgers, Big Ten losers for fans. What say ye?
I think he's saying the Big Ten would be a loser for the Florida State fans.
Oh, sorry. We love you, Big Ten. Big Ten, we love you. We think you're great.
Exactly right. Big Ten. I've always loved the Big Ten. I love everything it stands for. I want all the AAU schools to be Big Ten, to be in the Big Ten. Look, yes, if you had your pick, I think 90% of Florida, almost all of them would rather be in the SEC if the money's close to the same because of the travel and the weather, and your neighbors and friends. As I wrote in the roundtable, I don't think I've ever met. Like, it's just cool to have bragging rights among your friends. Like, we all know, like, Ole Miss fans or an Auburn fan or a Georgia fan. I've never met a University of Minnesota fan in my life. Not once. And I'm being serious. I've known one Illinois fan. I've never met, I don't think I've ever met, I know one Indiana fan.
I don't know Northwestern. One of my good friends, his family's from Minnesota, so they like the Gophers. But I don't know any Northwestern fans. I don't personally know any Nebraska fans.
You ever met a Purdue fan?
Yeah, a guy in Mississippi was from West Lafayette. So, yeah.
Not East Lafayette.
Yeah, I think.
West.
Correct. Yeah. West.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. So that's what I've been saying, that the SEC, if you can't get in the SEC, the Big Ten is certainly a great landing spot. Genuinely. It's better than where you are now because it keeps you relevant and it keeps you competitive. But you'd much rather be regional. You'd get to more fans at the games and more fans of those teams coming to your stadium in your city and paying outrageous sums for hotel rooms.
Yeah, I think you'll get some Florida State fans that will go to Rutgers. Maybe they'll tie that into like a New York City trip with their family. Minnesota, University of Minnesota, it's in Minneapolis. So maybe you go there, catch a Vikings game, maybe on Sunday as well.
I get it, Aslan, but imagine 2027 rolls around and your 3 SEC road trips, or Gainesville, obviously, and then Baton Rouge, Auburn, and the Grove.
Yeah, I know.
They're all drivable. They're all, it's more college football-y than, the rich people can fly to Minneapolis and watch Florida State play Minnesota. It's more for the common folk to be able to go to these games.
No, you ain't wrong. You ain't wrong. I want to send a shout out to whoever MN is. I think it's Coach Norvell is saying, "Let's
Probably.
go, Corey and Aslan." I finally subscribed to Warchant this week.
I mean, I feel like Norvell's probably been subscribed since you came aboard. He was probably subscribed when he was still coaching at Memphis. Yeah. But MN, whoever you are out there, we appreciate it, man. And more people get on board. Get on board. It's still a good deal. I'm sure.
I promise you I was going to pull it up and say thank you because we really do appreciate it. But then he also comes and drops $50. So just subscribe to Warchant. He's got some stuff to talk about now, so we'll talk about it. I'm worried about the defense. They had trouble stopping the run. Clemson, Florida, Wake. Are the two transfers going to make that much of a difference on the defensive line? Keep up the great work.
I think so. Again, I think when you look at Robert Cooper with one arm, Fabian Lovett standing on the sidelines, Josh Farmer playing before he's ready, Malcolm Ray's in there. You just that's not a top 10 caliber, top 20 caliber defensive line up the middle. It just isn't. Maybe Malcolm Ray turns into a good player. I think Josh Farmer already has, but he was not there against Louisville. He was learning as he went. Losing Fabian Lovett and basically having a 50% Robert Cooper, you saw the results of that, man. But I think, yes, I do. I think Darrell Jackson is going to make a huge difference. Let's hope he gets that waiver announcement anytime soon. Braden Fisk and Fabian Lovett are that's a really, really talented trio to go along with Josh Farmer. I think it's three guys that could all potentially play in the NFL. Farmer could probably play in the NFL too. I just think it's exponentially better than it was in some of those games. The Clemson game, again, like I said, Fabian Lovett, I don't remember if he played in that game or if he played a few snaps, but he wasn't himself. Just if you stay healthy, I think you got a shot to be a good run defense.
Fisk graded out at 84 on run defense. I think Darrell Jackson graded out at 73. Now that I think about it, I think Fabian actually did play against Clemson. I'll check that out. He graded out 73 rushing defense, Miami last year, Darrell Jackson. And I know when we think about run defense, obviously we're thinking about the interior of the defensive line. But listen, like Jared Verse wasn't healthy last year either.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, him being healthy just strengthens that entire defensive line.
You've got grown men. You've got grown men all over the defensive line, and not just 300-pound guys that are 19 years old. 300-pound guys that are 22 years old. Like, that's a big deal. Those are men. And if they stay healthy, that's going to be one of the better defensive lines, I would think, in the conference, in the region, maybe the country. I don't know. But I think it will be much harder to run on them if they're healthy. And I think Bethune and Deloach should really benefit from those guys in front of them. And I think to move the ball, Florida State will not finish in the top 5 in pass defense again like they did last year, because more teams, I think, will have to throw against them.
They had to throw against them last year. They were down by 30 points at halftime, these teams.
Well, some of them, but the games we're talking about, the Louisvilles of the world, the Florida, the Oklahoma, the Clemsons, they didn't.
Fabian Lovett did not play against Clemson. Trust your first instinct, kids, always. Always trust your first
instinct.
Look
what he did to Louisiana Lafayette, though. Yeah. All that grade out at 92. Come on, Fabian. And those 14 snaps he had. Not so great against the Gates.
No, not that great at all. Nope. Hey, MN, appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. Welcome to warchant.com. Go explore the space. It's all yours now. You can do it. Benjamin Tuchert, BT. If JT does as well as last year, does he get drafted and where?
They got oh, never mind. I was going to say something else. I would say that if he does as well as last year, but not better, 3rd round, 2nd round, somewhere in there. Yeah. I think he's a 2nd-day pick.
Agreed.
But I'm not. But if he goes out and does better than he did last year, wins most of all the games and throws for 4,000 yards and accounts for 40 touchdowns, but yeah, who knows, man? It's hard to even know anymore. It's just hard to know with quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. Like, I know that we think, and it probably will happen, that Caleb Williams will be 1 and Drake May will be 2, but these people don't know, man. Did Will Levis even get drafted? I don't even remember where he got drafted. When did that happen? These people just don't know when it comes to the draft and quarterbacks. And I clearly don't. But I would think if he has another outstanding year, he will definitely get drafted, which was not at all a certainty. 12 months ago?
No.
It was probably you would have thought that was probably improbable that Jordan Travis would be a draft pick 12 months ago. And now maybe he's worked himself into a second or third round pick if he has a really good season. They're still going to be worried about the arm strength. They're still going to be worried about the size, but more and more NFL quarterbacks look like Jordan Travis. I said not 6'6" statues that weigh 245 pounds.
I mean, PFF, the 10 quarterbacks they've got that are draft eligible for next year: Caleb Williams, Drake May, Michael Penix from Washington, Quinn Ewers, Bo Nix, Jordan Travis, Joe Milton, J.J. McCarthy. So, I mean, he's in the conversation. But, yeah, I mean, if you're not the third guy on that list, you're probably going second day. There's nothing to be ashamed of, man.
Correct.
There isn't, man. So, Chris Winkie won a national championship here. Where'd he get drafted, huh? Charlie Ward, huh?
Yeah, good point.
All right, what else we got here? Samurai Knoll. Are there any games outside of LSU and Clemson that you worry could sneak up on us?
Well, at Florida probably won't be easy. I just can't imagine it will be unless they just implode.
It's possible, and it'd be a noon game. We'll take it.
Well, maybe, yeah. And then I don't know, man. At Pitt, we talked about that the other day. I think that where it comes on the schedule, before Miami and after Wake, that could be one. You don't really worry about Southern Miss, Virginia Tech, Syracuse, or Duke. And I could be wrong. One of those teams might end up having a miraculous, year soaked in gold. But I would think those four teams are cakewalks. At Wake Forest, that can sneak up on you. When's the last time Florida State beat Wake Forest? It's been a minute.
In Wake Forest, right?
Yeah. I'm not taking that. I'm not just penciling in a win for that one. Miami, North Alabama. I mean, I feel like they should be wins. Miami game's always weird, especially it just always is. There's a few of them I guess could sneak up on you.
No, Miami gets no satisfaction of us thinking that they're going to be a challenge. Not after what happened last year. So no, jury they would have to be 9-0 going to that game for me to respect Miami or fear them. I
like it, Aslan.
In the Florida game, unless Florida is like a sneaky 8-3 team and somehow it gets flexed to a 7:30 kick, maybe. But even at that point, it doesn't have any implications on them making the SEC championship game. They probably won't be in it either. So I guess maybe they'll go all in on that game. Could be a little bit hairy. I mean, because I get it. Like last year was a one-possession game, but that quarterback isn't no longer here. But he didn't have a lot of help around them. But I don't think they've brought a lot in the portal, and Graham Mertz is not Anthony Richardson.
Right.
Let me ask you a silly question, Corey. If you knew you're going to – if you know the Clemson is who you would face in Charlotte on December 2nd, would you prefer to have defeated Clemson on the 23rd of September, or would you rather have had the sting, the awful taste in your mouth of having lost to them as you go into that game in Charlotte?
Man, that's hard. It all depends on have you beaten LSU in that scenario?
Yes. Yeah. It doesn't. Yeah. Your national championship hopes are not compromised at all by that result in this scenario. Because I wonder if it's a one possession game in Clemson that you just kind of you kind of realize that maybe you lucked out. Maybe they muffed a punt or two. Jordan threw a pick, but you somehow were able to cobble together a win, like having to play them again in the ACC championship game. But that really doesn't qualify as sneaking up on you.
It'd be 2 months later, right? I still think that you would rather, obviously you'd rather win the game. You'd rather go in with a win at Clemson. You don't want Dabo to be happy on a Saturday night. You just don't want to see that smile and him all shucking it up in the press conference. You'd rather him having to talk about a loss against Florida State for the first time in 9 years. So, no, I think you want to go ahead and win that bad boy. Plus, if you win it, if one of those games happens to sneak up on you somehow, if you've beaten LSU and Clemson and you say you somehow lose at Wake, because it's just what happens, but Wake ends up being 10-3, well, you still probably, if you can beat Clemson again in the championship game, have a darn good argument for making the playoff. If you're 12-1 and you beat Clemson twice and LSU once, That probably gets you in the playoff, maybe. Probably, maybe.
I'll stick with
Maybe
Duke.
my new album.
I'll stick with Duke, I guess. And now I see it's homecoming weekend, so everyone's going to leave early because their parents will be here. Florida State will be up by like 10 at half. Everyone will leave. Then maybe Duke's defense does some kind of crazy adjustments. That's the only thing. I just think Mike Elko might be able to figure something out to trip up this team. But again, probably not for 60 minutes. Corey's point is that it doesn't really matter how clever he is because physically they probably will be overwhelmed, to which I say you're probably right. Z-Chan says, Corey, let me know where your room is. I'll come hang out, brother.
The penthouse suite. Always. That's how we roll at Warchant.
Shout out to Rowdy Every Point. $5 in the jar. Thank you very much. How much extra revenue would the teams who finish 5 through 8 entering in the expanded 12-team playoff for that extra home game?
Get for that extra home game because they would get to host that first round? I don't know. I don't think any of that's been – it's a really good point. It's something I'm sure all those numbers will be dissected and figured out and who gets what. But I don't know. I would assume – wouldn't you get to keep your gate? Like if Florida State in 2024 is hosting Utah, wouldn't Florida State get to keep all the money from that, or would the NCAA want some, or whatever the playoff committee is, because they're the ones that organize the game? You know what I mean? Like I don't know how that would work.
Yeah. I'd have to go and look and see how it works with like regionals, right?
But how does it work? Doesn't the Pac-12 do home games for their championship game, or am I misremembering that?
No, I think they did maybe the first year or two it was on campus, but now it's been in Vegas the last few years.
That's right. Because, I remember the USC Utah game. That's right. But, so we could look back at that and see. I don't know how much extra. I mean, I would think millions if you get to keep it.
Yeah. Scott Beckett, who I think asked about the transfer situation and tampering, he's got a super sticker. Hope you all enjoy how cool it looks.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, man. Thanks, Extra Point.
Yeah, appreciate that. All right, let's take one last one on the way out. We have hit the top of the hour. We've surpassed the top of the hour by like 4 minutes. Let's do this one first. We'll do Z-Chan, then we'll close out with our guy in Pensacola. All right, I'm not usually Debbie Downer, Z-Chan says. He is a dentist, so he's always smiling.
Yeah.
If Florida State were to end up going 8-4, what does that do to next year's expectations? Ugh.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why do you want to ask that? Why'd you do
I
that?
don't even want to. Z-Chan, I'll answer it because, you're a giver. It would, it would make them plummet. I would think you'd go into the year after that. If you go 8-4 this year with this team and you lose all the guys you're going to lose, I think you're looking at best case going into the next year, you're hoping to get back to 8 wins. That would be my thought. Not undoable. You're still going to load up with some talent, apparently, but I think I think if Florida State has the kind of year in 2023 that we expect and hope they'll have, you go into 2024 thinking probably the floor is 8 wins. Maybe. I don't think you're going to go back from 12 wins to 6. I just don't think that's going to happen. So you go in thinking, man, we could have an 8 or 9 win season. I could live with that. If you go 8-4 this year and then you go into 2024, the fan will be, he better at least win 8 games or he's in real trouble. I think that's how the expectations would change.
It would be ugly if they went 8-4 this year. Yeah, I don't.
Hey, you know what? And that's a good place to be, Aslan.
It is.
I'll be honest with you. And I'm not disagreeing with you. And I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, isn't it cool that people are mad because they're losing again and it's not apathy. But, man, what a cool time to be back where an 8-4 season at Florida State would be viewed as a pretty big failure.
Yeah.
Or as a letdown.
All right, last one. Pensacola Pack Buster. If you had to guess what NFL caliber Florida State players will come back next year, Norvell always brings back a couple top players.
All right, that's old Mike's MO. He's always going to keep a couple around. I would say
Josh Farmer's NFL caliber, but I think he'll probably need 2 more years to fulfill that promise. I don't think, even if he has a great year this year, I don't think he should leave because I would think he comes back, he would be able to build on it. So, Destin Hill, he's still technically a freshman, so he couldn't go. I feel like I probably need to have like the roster up here so we have a full idea of like the eligibility of these players.
Is Keon Coleman eligible? Is he draft eligible?
Yes.
Because
that's his second year. Yeah.
I don't know anything about him. I've never talked to him. I've only watched highlight clips, but I'm going to say Keon Coleman.
Okay.
Because he would like to be the number one guy. So that's my answer.
What about Shaheem?
Yeah, but I don't know if he's got to prove he's NFL caliber.
Okay.
If he does, then I would think Shaheem might be a candidate as well.
Patrick Payton?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's draft eligible.
He would be, yeah. Again, I'm not sure yet. I think he will be, but I was thinking more about guys that are like absolutely proven to be already. And I don't know that any of them but what is Byers? Could Byers come back?
No, I think he's on his sixth
It's
year.
hard to, and look, guys, I know that they're seniors, but then they're the super seniors. The whole COVID year made things really hard to keep track of. I do pay attention on my job, I promise. I just couldn't remember if he was a fourth year senior or a fifth year senior or whatever.
Hold on real quick. Let me see if I can. I'm on PFF. He played in 19. He played in 20, so that doesn't count. So
yeah, this would be his fourth year, right?
Yeah, 21, 22, and then 23. That's 4. That's 5. That'd be 5 years.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to stick with Keon Coleman.
And here we go. Ultimate curveball. Z-Chan says he was just joking. He throws $50 to be the punchline, the rim shot of his.
That is the correct answer.
Yeah, correct answer. They'll go 13-0 and make the playoffs. Let's go.
Wrong.
Indeed.
You forgot the wrong with the exclamation point.
Wrong. Little Charlie Murphy for us. Thanks, everybody, for being here. If you could hit the thumbs up on the way out, we certainly would appreciate it. We might drop another show on Friday, possibly. Maybe we'll do a little super regional day one wrap up and maybe some other things that are on our mind if there's anything worth discussing out there. Hit the thumbs up. We would appreciate that. Thank you to our guys, Thomas Giddings, Ray Pereira, Eric Angel, Z-Chan, Maniac, Scott Beckett, MN, Rowdy Every Point. We really, really appreciate it. We're just two dudes hanging out, talking about your favorite football team. So,
and great vitamin energy and great corner pocket as well.
That's right. Shake it and take it. Promo code's above my head. Warchant BOGO. Check out cptallybar.com. Hit the QR code above Corey. Takes you right to the website. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thanks for watching and listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill and vitaminenergy.com.